Phil and Will are back, and Survivor Season 30 has finally started. We're excited to say that we actually have a lot to talk about this time after a couple weeks of kind of struggling to come up with some topics and all this other stuff. A great premiere episode. We're going to take it all in from the beginning right through the very end, through our first boot, which some of us found a little surprising, some of us didn't. We're going to update all of our fantasy games while we're here. What we're going to do is we have our fantasy game where we each pick six people. So there were three teams. It was Phil, Will, and the Phantom team. And we're each going to nominate an MVP from our team. And we'd like you guys to vote. Either you can vote on our video in the comments section, or you can vote for it on and you can follow us on Twitter, Phil _and_ Will. It's really, really original. So if you can find us there and, vote who you think was the MVP of the episode. And finally, we're definitely going to update this Bootlist challenge. Spoilers, I had So going out first, so I'm in first place, along with 8 other people. So this is exciting. This was fun to do and kind of see where everybody stands. But let's take it from the beginning. Willie, what'd you think about the opening?
First of all, just the episode was really good, really, really good. I haven't been the cast just delivered on all accounts. There were some parts of the show where I think production kind of messed up, but the cast more than made up for it. So, but we'll get into that. The opening, let's see, the twist where they have someone stand out and be the leader. It was Joaquin, Dan, and Will. Not surprised by any of those people doing that. Joaquin seems he's going to take every opportunity he gets to just do anything. He's there to play, which is cool.
Joaquin doesn't really understand the game, is what I kind of got from this. He doesn't really get it, whereas Max was like, you never want to be the leader. Let me just let these other people do it. And, Joaquin's like, oh, I can't wait to be the leader, because I don't think he really understands what's going on out there. I think he's in a little over his head.
That's what I originally thought, but we'll talk about it later. He did a great job of dodging the heat from the idol eye, but we'll get into that. So Joaquin steps out, and it's not even so much that you're stepping out to be a leader. You just have a decision to make. That's what they were told. So I think, Joaquin, I don't think he's seen that much of Survivor. He says, you know what, hell with it. I'm gonna do it. Dan, he said he's been applying for the show, every season since season 1. So I think he's finally there, and he's going to be another guy like Joaquin, where if he sees an opportunity, he's just going to say, hey, I'm playing this game once. He said, I want to be remembered. I might not win, but I'm going to not just sit around and wait for something to happen. He's going to go after it. And then Will, I think it's kind of a mix between Dan and Joaquin. He hasn't seen that much Survivor, but he also wants to be someone who's going to go out there and be kind of remembered in a way. He wants to be the star.
My thing with Will is I feel like the no-callers didn't want to send anybody out there, and I think they all kind of either felt bad about being the one to go or they didn't want to be the one to go. And I think what happened with Will was he's just the most positive person on that tribe, and he was like, you know what, I'll do it. I'll take one for the team. I feel like he thought he was helping out while doing that. And the other two I look at as they kind of wanted to be the leaders. With Will, I kind of looked at it as, all right, this is what my tribe's going to do. I'm the oldest one over here. Well, Nina's older, but still, he's the oldest one over there. He's a big, imposing guy, and he's really positive, and I think that's why he kind of stepped up and did it.
Yeah, they definitely took the longest to make their decision. Yeah. And then Max was like, oh, the no-caller is struggling to make a decision. Yeah. And, I was like, Max, you know this game so well. Why are you saying stuff for no reason? Why are you drawing attention to yourself at all?
You know what it is?
I think Max wants to be the funny star of this season. He knows it's a TV show. Is what he knows it's a show. So I think while he knows the game and he's probably a really savvy player, and we did see some of that, Max is a little too into being kind of the know-it-all, honestly.
I got that from it too, and I was watching it with a couple other people, and we all kind of said he wants to be the condescending college professor who's really dry and sarcastic. He has that type of sense of humor, but he's also talking down to you, but it's in a funny way where you're I can't really be mad at this guy. But if you're on Survivor with a bunch of 30-something-year-olds, people aren't going to take that too kindly. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that could start to rub people. Although the white collar tribes seem to like him just fine, I feel like that could rub the other tribes the wrong way and hurt him come merge time.
Yeah, he'll have to figure it out and tone it down. I mean, we'll get into tribal. He said something that really kind of irked me, but we'll get into that later. So, and then let's go. So Joaquin then So volunteered.
So stupid.
So yeah, that was. I think she was just really attracted to Joaquin. I think they had already, just by reading the pregame stuff, we kind of saw this Joaquin relationship forming. And so when Joaquin volunteered, I kind of had a sense, okay, So is going to go with, and we knew about the two people thing, the whole share the lie. And let's see, Dan, it was...
Mike volunteered.
Mike volunteered?
Yeah,
wait,
Mike volunteered to do it. No, that was Will and Jen.
Oh, wait, I'm confused. Okay, yeah, so Mike volunteered, great, I'm sure they talked about Frisbee golf together, and then Will chose Jen. Jen did not volunteer.
No, Will chose Jen. He chose her pretty quick, too. The only thing is, with that one, they might have talked about that while they were on the mat, where it's like, if you have to pick a weakest, who should I pick? Like, they might have done that because they took a while. So they might have kind of looked into, if you have to pick the weakest person, who do you pick? If you have to pick somebody with you, who do you pick? I feel like they were talking about it for so long, it might have been kind of planned that Jen would go with him.
Yeah, in his confessional, he said Jen just has a positive attitude or like a good spirit. I don't know. They all seem to have these good spirits, I guess, in this tribe. So, yeah, those were your 6 people right off the bat. And did you feel like those 6 were in immediate danger? Or what did you think?
I didn't think anybody was in danger this time because here's what I thought was interesting. Instead of sending the 2 of them back to camp early, everybody was at camp while they had to make their decision, and I thought that was awesome because you don't have time to sit there and really think of a lie or start looking for a hidden immunity idol. You have to walk over there, and everybody knows that you're there. Like, everybody's right behind you at your camp, and I thought that was awesome. I didn't think anybody was in trouble until So came up with that terrible lie because I felt like everybody was kind of like, oh, it's just a situation, you have to do it, they've all seen it before. But when So came up with that terrible lie, I was like, wow, her and Joaquin, they're playing with smart people. Max and Shireen, like, come on. You know, I didn't think anybody was in trouble just stepping off the mat. I thought they were in trouble when the lie happened.
Okay. I have several problems with the way this twist was kind of played out. I don't like that they were all at camp. I think that takes away from, I mean, it's a big decision, and you should have time to think about it. And if you pick the idol clue, you have time to look for it. It gives you much more of an incentive to choose the idol clue if your camp isn't, right behind you, waiting for you to come out of the woods. And we never saw them traveling to camp. That's usually a way for people to get to know each other, bond, see who's weak, see who's strong. That's usually fun to watch while someone's waiting at camp for them with this, big decision. And then the bags of beans. Man, they really, really screwed up. Does Nicaragua have just a bunch of food laying around? Because these bags of beans were so small. Even Sierra.
So small.
Even Sierra called out the blue-collar tribe, saying, "I know they picked a smaller bag. Look at that bag." She's like, "I can't imagine what the small bag would look like." And then for someone to pick the small bag, and lie about it, like they have almost no chance of lying about it because the bag is so darn small. What they needed to do was have a big bag of beans and a medium size of beans, not a small bag of beans and an extra small bag of beans. Like that kind of gave the whole thing away.
I kind of agree with you on that. The bags were that was one thing. The bags were way too small, and good on Sierra for calling that out. But at the same time, like I kind of felt bad for Dan and Mike, especially Dan, because Mike wanted to lie the whole time. But Dan really was like, we have to do good. We have to be honest. We have to do everything right. And Mike, you could tell, wanted to lie so bad. And he was like, fine, let's do this. And then Dan comes back, and Dan's getting thrown under the bus because they think that he took the small bag. And I honestly think that granted, Dan has a big mouth, talks way too much, but I think that might have been part of the reason why they might have been a little more negative towards him, was because they thought that he was lying to them.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like there should be like a thing you can take saying, look, this was the honest thing. Like it's crazy that those guys are being looked at like that's very suspicious.
Yeah.
That they took, even though they took the bigger bag, it was so small to begin with. I just I don't know how they pick the sizes of the bags, and even when if you because I think production wants at least one person, maybe even two tribes to take the idol clue because that starts
Yeah.
getting idols in people's hands. Production loves idols, so you would think that they would have a pretty hefty bag to go along with the idol clue to prove, look, this is what I chose. Yeah. And then So's lie, I didn't hate it, but the problem was it's a tribe full of Survivor fans. Like that could work on a good amount of people.
That would have worked last season. It's not going to work this season.
Exactly. And I love how So is the one that had to tell the lie, even though Joaquin is the one who's like, we're lying. And then he lets So take all the heat for it. Joaquin, that was a pretty savvy move, and then his name didn't come up at Tribal.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty safe. I think we lost you for
So
a
to do it.
We lost you for a sec, Will.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is So probably wouldn't have grabbed the clue if it weren't for Joaquin. Like, Joaquin led that lie the whole way, and then totally threw So under the bus.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think Jen and Will did it the best, or at least had it go the smoothest, where it was like, okay, this is what we have to do. Jen's a savvy player. She knows what she's doing. And the way she was like, okay, whatever you want to do, like just let him take that leadership role. He can come back, he can talk, and Jen can just follow him around right here, because that's a bad situation to be in. Don't voice your opinion so much. With Mike, he was really like, I'm surprised Dan didn't go back and be like, well, I guess because him and Mike kind of bonded a little bit, but I'm surprised, like, if that was anybody other than Dan, they could have just went back and been like, Mike really wanted to take the fucking clue. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he really could have. Like, it was pretty.
Yeah,
it was,
he did. But then Dan kind of became immediately the outsider on his tribe, with Mike now being his only friend. What do you want? Do you want to go through we start off with a twist? I mean, like I said, I think the bags of beans, they needed to be different sizes for this really to work. I think it was just too easy to get caught if you chose the clue. So
I think it should have almost been like an extra large bag and then a large bag. So like either way, you were bringing back a really, really, really good amount of food. I will disagree with you on one thing though. I did like that the other tribes are already there, because I like that whole, there's urgency now. You don't get to sit there and be like, well, what do I do? It's like now here's the urgency, go. And for Joaquin and So to do it and then come up with such a garbage lie, at least when you're playing with Max, Shireen, Carolyn, Tyler, it's a bad lie. You know, it's just a bad lie off the bat.
But what are you going to say? Honestly, like when you come back with that small of a bag, what can you say to convince them that you weren't lying? Like there's literally nothing you could have said.
Well, that's why I would have just been honest then at that point. Seriously, because there really is nothing you could have said. That bag was like 2 handfuls. There was nothing in that bag.
That's why this twist, I think, could have been better. And because it was So and Joaquin and just the whole way it shaked out, I'm totally cool with it. I have no problems with it now. But like I'm saying, most of the problems that I have with this episode are totally just made up for by the strength of the cast. So
the cast is fantastic so far.
Yeah, it really is. So do you want to kind of go through each tribes? Because then we have a lot of just meeting people until the challenge. So do you want to just go tribe by tribe, talk about, the moments, who stood out?
Well, I think what we should do is maybe start with, you want to start with No Collar, since we probably saw the least of No Collar because they won. Although we did see a lot, but we didn't get to see much of Haley. We didn't get to see much. Really, Nina wasn't that prominent.
Or Will. Will didn't. Yeah,
Will was big at the beginning, and then he kind of backed off. But I really want to talk about this Jen, Joe, Vince love triangle, because that was bizarre, man. Vince is way weirder than we thought, dude.
Yeah, let's start this thing off. Okay, so Will had his thing with the sandwiches on the mat. That was kind of his, I'm going to make sandwiches from the ocean. That was his thing of the episode. We get who Will is. I don't think we saw a confessional for him or really heard from him anymore in the episode, which is cool. He got his thing. Nina had her, intro, look, I'm deaf, but I can talk well. I have implants, so I can kind of hear. Okay, she had her kind of thing. Haley, though, never stood out at all. I think she had
Yeah.
maybe two confessionals, maybe one.
It was one or two, and I don't really remember what she said in either of them. She didn't really bring that much to it. I mean, she could be a player down the end. It was just that there was so much more going on in that tribe that Haley kind of just got overlooked. I feel like for a premiere, she could still be a huge player in this
Yeah, I'm
game.
not saying she's not a huge
Yeah.
player or anything. I'm just for how well the editing was balanced this premiere. I thought the editors did a really good job. Haley was the one that like we didn't really see. I mean, we saw that little bit of Will, little bit of Nina at least, and then Haley didn't have like her premiere moment, you know. But
I
we'll
hear you.
get into this love triangle. And I'm surprised Haley isn't kind of involved with that because like Haley's the better looking one out of them.
You know what it is
But
though? It's that whole no collar people where like Vince clearly I feel like he's like a guy who would just be more attracted to someone like Jen than Haley. Joe I'm a little more surprised, but then again I don't feel like Joe is really like that interested in Jen. I feel like it just worked out where like they have like the same type of humor and they get along and Vince was looking at it completely wrong and was just like going all about it the wrong way because him and Joe have like this little alpha male feud.
yeah, they totally do. And Jen was saying, I remember in her interviews, she was saying like, "I'm not the prettiest one out here. There's all these cute girls. I'm not like a cute girl." She's really cute. I don't know what she's talking about. She's a really good-looking chick.
And she was
Um,
flirting hard with both of them. She
yeah,
really was.
I don't see how she's like this tomboy
Yeah.
that she keeps saying she is. She seems like a pretty. She's
We lost you again, Will.
fun to have. Oh man.
I know you.
Okay, but anyway,
Damn LA.
Jen's not as like boyish as she says she is. So
No.
she's a flirt. She's definitely flirting. So what happens first? We have Vince and Jen kind of gravitate towards each other, and they make this alliance, like this day one. Let's go to the end. I think they hug it out. A much shorter hug than what we'll see later. But they kind of bond. Then
Which
we
I was happy about because we were huge. I was huge on Jen and Vince preseason. Like I loved it too. They were two of my favorite people. They were probably my favorite guy and favorite girl.
Yeah, exactly. I was stoked. I was like, wow, this is a day one alliance. They could really do damage because they seem right for this. It seemed to work.
Yeah.
And then they start building the shelter, and Joe seems like at first I didn't know, is Joe just this kind of kid who thinks he knows stuff but doesn't, or is he actually a construction? Does he know what he's doing? And slowly but surely you're realizing, okay, Joe
Yeah.
is the smarter one here.
When they first argued, I was on Team Vince because I thought Joe was being a little condescending for really no reason, and I thought we didn't get to see much of Vince interacting in groups, so I felt like, oh, he's being a little hard on Vince just because Vince is a little bit weirder. He's the younger guy. He's trying to be a little arrogant. But as the episode went on, you really started to see that Vince is a little out. Like Vince is delusional, whereas Joe is definitely more level-headed.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah, Joe was good this episode. Joe was fantastic this episode.
yeah, I'm nominating him for MVP of my fantasy squad.
You gotta
So
put like a ding or something. Like ding. There you go. There's your first nominee. That's Will's nominee is Joe.
I mean, totally. I mean, if he doesn't win, it's a shame because he totally MVP of the episode. He did everything right. Because so the shelter happens, and they had that feud a little bit. Jen hasn't come into play at all, and
Mhm.
then he's like, I saw this thing on YouTube. I practice it every day before coming out here. I know it works. I was like a little skeptical, but hey, if he practices it every day, he knows it works. I was just saying, is he gonna have the same materials that he did? That's the question. Is
Yeah,
he
that's always the thing.
to make pull it off? It looks, I couldn't even tell. It was something pretty unique, the contraption. It wasn't just rubbing two sticks together. It was like a pretty cool system, and it seems like the way they edited it, he got that thing done in like 10 minutes.
Real
And
quick.
it fire.
Yeah, and I don't think this was the one part where like Joe was like the hero here for a second, but I don't feel like Vince was mad about this. Like I feel like Vince was pretty pumped. It was just that because of this, then all of a sudden Jen and Joe start like really mingling, and that
Yeah,
really bothered Vince. And it's like, Vince, just chill for a second. Like just hang out. Take it easy.
Vince wasn't mad about Joe starting the fire. He was mad about Jen being so open to Joe, like hugging him, saying, "Oh, good job." And
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you're on an island, and the dude starts fire. Like he deserves a little credit here. And
Yeah,
then
and
they cut to Vince, him like staring. Oh, it was so good and a little creepy. Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you know,
The
what's
editors
going
did well
on?
on that part, definitely.
Very, very, very well. And then I don't even know what happened. I guess they just showed Vincent or they showed Jen and Joe just kind of talking, and then Vince was just like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
laying it down. Takes her into the woods. What did he say exactly? I know he said, "Do you think Joe's attractive?" Which is a crazy weird question because when you make an alliance with someone, it's not like you're dating. It's not like you
Yeah.
can't flirt. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking.
I'm gonna be honest. Other than maybe Billy Garcia confessing his love to Candace, or for Candace, or that Candace loved him, or whatever that whole situation is, I forget exactly how it played out. But when he said that Candace loved him, this might have been the second most uncomfortable I've ever been. Like I couldn't look at the screen because it was just so weird. Like, come on, man. Like you're in the woods with like this girl and like be a little bit more like I don't think he meant it to be like I don't think he meant it to be as bad as it came off. I feel like he's a good-hearted guy. He just doesn't really. He's like a little socially awkward, but like that came off as creepy, as strange as anything in this show has ever seen. It really did.
Yes, it totally did, especially because of the weird look he gave and just the whole way they just like how quickly it went down. It's like you've known this chick for what 3, 4 hours. I think that was day one, so it's a little quick to start bringing people to wood and saying you can't be flirty with this guy who just started fire. And just to go back to the Candace thing, so it was Billy like had this huge crush on Candace, and then on a challenge, Billy was like, "I'm going home," and then Candace with like someone next to her said, "We love you," and he mistook it as "I love you,"
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Oh, the girl I love loves me." It was hilarious. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was just laughing my ass off when that happened. This was way more uncomfortable. So he asked Jen if you think Joe's attractive, and this is when Jen, I think this is her only mistake. She just went no, no. But yeah, Joe's totally attractive, but that doesn't have anything to do with trust or alliance. It enters
Yeah.
completely. But she totally lied. Like she lied with face, and Vince clearly was like, I think Jen's lying. Like because you cannot think Joe is not attractive. I mean, I'm not attracted to dudes, but like you can
Yeah.
tell just from the hair, the muscles, the smile. Like that dude's got it going. He's like like a
And you
golden
know
child. He
what?
started the fire.
If Jen could have definitely done that smoother, where she could have just been like, Vince, listen, it's you and me. Joe should be our third. Like if she would have said something along those lines, where it's like Joe should be our number three or something like that, just to be like, it will be you and me as 1 and 2, but Joe will be number three. That's the strongest alliance
Right.
that game would have.
Right.
It's
I don't think Vince would be. I
I
don't
don't know
think
if he'd
Vince
be
would be happy
excited,
with
but you
that.
can't sit there and lie to a guy. That would be that's like I really think that girl's attractive. She's sitting on the couch, macking it with that guy. She was just talking to me for 5 minutes, and now she comes back over to me. And if she were to be like, "Oh God, that guy's ugly," and I'm like, "No, like that's not true. You guys almost just started making out 3 seconds ago. Like you can't just like that was such a blatant lie. Like guys are gonna realize that's a blatant lie. Like
Right.
that's terrible. That was the worst move Jen made the whole game, which kind of sucked because until then she was on fire. She really was.
Yeah, the thing with Jen, and I know she's my winner pick, and I'm probably going to stick with her. I know on the Reddit thing you can change your gold flare up until I think a couple days because they give you the first episode to kind of see everybody. But Jen did get a ton of airtime, and
Yeah.
it's almost too much airtime. Like she was probably the most prominent member. I'm trying to think, except
Maybe
for the
early boot airtime, which is kind of scary because now she's in the middle of two powerful guys, which could suck.
I think she's okay. I think her position's okay. I mean, I'm just saying, apart from like the white collar child that went to tribal, she was definitely the shown the
Oh
most.
yeah.
But you have anything else for the no collar tribe?
Well, are we going to talk about the challenge later? Because if we talk about the challenge all at
Oh yeah,
once,
yeah,
okay, we'll
yeah.
just
We're
talk
gonna
about the challenge all at once. Okay, yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah, nothing really changed for me in the no collar except for Vince. Way weirder than I thought he was going to be. I thought he was more self-aware. He was real weird. You want to go blue collar now, since we'll go white collar when they lose. Like, since they lose, so you want to go blue collar next?
Well, I think we're just gonna do the pre-challenge,
Okay.
and then we'll do challenge. Then we'll deal with the white collar scrambling around.
Well, let's go.
So we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying we do blue collar. Their pre-challenge, kind of what we got from them. Mike eats a scorpion right off the bat.
What an
I mean,
idiot.
it's day one. You're not even. I don't think you're that hungry yet. I mean,
And
this is Survivor.
you have to cook a scorpion. Like, you have to. Like, who knows? Like,
Yeah, it's not like a bug you can just chomp down.
what's up?
It's not like a bug that you can just kind of throw in your mouth and chomp down and kill it and swallow it.
Like, scorpions
I
are
think those
poisonous.
Well, not all of them are. I'm sure they were told which ones were and weren't, but a scorpion is like it's got some meat in it, and it's got like a shell. It's like got a crunchy. It's not
Yeah.
a bug. You can't say a scorpion is a bug. That's like it's a reptile, right?
I don't know what it is. I'm not a good scientist.
I'm not a good scientist either, but I'm pretty sure it's a reptile, not an insect.
I know you can't just pick it up and eat it. I think Rupert Bonham even tweeted, like, everybody knows you have to cook a scorpion. Because I think he had done it on one of his seasons. So.
Wouldn't surprise me, except I don't really remember him eating
Yeah.
a scorpion. Yeah, then he throws it up immediately. I think it's a good laugh. I think he's excited to be there, and he's just,
Yeah.
he wants to survive. He wants to eat crazy stuff. I'm for that. It was an idiot move, but I don't think it cost him any kind of gameplay stuff.
No. I think honestly, I think they're all. I'm kind of surprised we didn't get to see much of Sierra. I thought we'd see more of her.
Sierra had her kind of thing with the idol clue saying she's suspicious. That was kind of her
That was her
premier
moment, but we didn't get
which is fine.
Yeah, we didn't get to see much of her. We didn't get to see much of Kelly. I don't feel like either.
Kelly had good. What we saw was good though. She
Yeah.
was trying to mediate the fight between Dan and Lindsay and Sierra, and kind of try to be the voice of reason and say, let's talk about it, let's communicate, let's just not yell at each other. She seems to be very level-headed and self-aware. So Kelly definitely goes up in my book, and I know you'll be happy to hear me say that.
I am very happy to hear you say that. But what scares me a little bit, just from our fantasy games and kind of where we have them in all of our boot lists and stuff, I think we got Lindsay and Rodney wrong. I really do think we got them wrong. I think Rodney's a lot smarter than we initially gave him credit for. And I made fun of that guy so much in our cast assessment, but I think he's a pretty smart guy. And he used the one lie, or he didn't lie about it, but he used one thing that people could see as a lie and showed, hey, look, it's on my arm. Like, I wouldn't just get a tattoo that said my sister was dead. Like, if it wasn't real.
That was a little.
It was creepy. It was a little weird, but it works. I think it works.
To use your dead. I'm not saying he's not sad about it, and it's not like he got the tattoo for the reason of going on Survivor and lying about it. But to right when you meet someone, bring that up and say, look at me, I'm sensitive. I mean, I'm not saying it was a dumb move. It's like if you're gonna cross like a moral bound, like if there are things in Survivor like that you could totally do that are immoral, and you get a pass because it's Survivor. This is like right on that borderline, or even for Survivor, this is a little like, whoa, you're talking about your dead sister to befriend somebody.
This is always one of those things, though, like with morals. Like, certain people just have different morals than other people, and this for some reason really didn't bother me coming from him, and I don't think it would have bothered me really coming from anyone. Because I don't feel like he was kind of like rubbing your face like, hey, look, my sister's dead. I think it's kind of like when you first get to an island, you do kind of start talking to each other. And, yeah, we didn't get to see the whole opening with the blue collar. Maybe him and Lindsay had been talking about stuff, talking about why do you have each tattoo and all that stuff. And she said, what's that one on your arm? We didn't really get to see that. It seemed like he brought it up.
That's not what happened. That is not what happened.
I don't know, man. It doesn't bother me. It really didn't bother me.
I can tell you how it happened. It was he gave a whole confessional on it. He says, I love to see a lady with ink. Those are the girls I can get to. So he goes up to her because he says the ladies with ink, they want to express themselves. They'll be very open about telling you about the ink. I got ink. I got great ink because my sister's dead. So he goes up to Lindsay pretty much planning on using that as like a means to get in and go with her. I don't think it was just a happenstance conversation. I think Rodney was very deliberately went in with that purpose of saying, look, here's my arm. I'm not saying he's not sad about it. I mean,
Yeah.
he shed a tear, it looked like. I'm not saying that tear was fake. I'm saying he did do it deliberately with the purpose of building a friendship alliance, which is, I mean, it's up to you whether you think that's okay. I'm not saying it's not okay, but it's like pretty close to being. I mean, I love Survivor. I love the gamesmanship. I don't really care about morals. Vote anybody off. But that's like the one thing that I haven't seen something like that in a while, where it's like, woof,
I
like.
guess my whole thing is just because we see them on TV, we don't know what the relationship was like. And yeah, I guess lying or like talking about your dead sister to get further in the game is kind of messed up. But yeah, it seemed like they were living together. We don't know what kind of relationship they had. You know, it was kind of like Johnny Fairplay with the dead grandma thing. Maybe he didn't talk to his grandmother for years and just said, you know what? She's pretty much dead to me. I might as well just say she's dead anyway, even if she still is alive. I don't know those situations. I know Johnny Fairplay was closer with his grandma. We don't
That
know what
doesn't
his
matter,
bond
though.
was
Like,
with
he
his
makes.
sister. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I guess what I'm saying is this is like the closest thing to a dead grandma lie I think that we've had, honestly. And I'm not saying it comes close to its importance of the show and moment because Fairplay just made up that she was dead. It was a complete
Yeah.
lie. But I don't think we've seen someone use like a loved one in this way since Pearl Islands, honestly. Like he has a tattoo and he says he deliberately was like, I'm going to this tattoo. The girls are gonna love it. And also we didn't mention this before. On the mat, he says, I move furniture, which is just he said that's like a total lie. I got brains, I'm a hustler or whatever. So that was, I think Rodney's got a nice head on his shoulders. And he was fun to watch. I would love to see him stick around for a
And
good while.
I think we got him for a little bit because I think, as much as it hurts me to say this, when they go to tribal, Dan's gone. He's too much, dude. He's too much for all them. I think
Yeah,
he's just too much.
Dan really is on the outs of that tribe. I can't see anyone else really going before Dan. Even Lindsay seems like she fits in really well, unless she totally blows a challenge and they're like, all right, Lindsay is.
But she seems strong. She doesn't seem like she was weak or anything. You know what I mean? Like Dan's probably more of a liability. You know what I mean? He's older. He's just like this fat guy. He has that great underwear though. I had it. You know that underwear was something. Please keep your pants on, Dan. That's all I ask. I don't know if that
I
was
mean, his
like
shirt and pants were off for like the whole. It was very like, oh, whoa, this guy is,
foreshadowing
letting
because
it out
next
there.
week supposedly everybody's naked. So, but what are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
it's the white collar tribe. But
Um,
let's see. Anything else on no collar? I feel like
or
nothing really
blue collar.
big. Or
Yeah,
yeah, blue collar.
Blue collar didn't do much before the challenge. I mean, I think we actually probably got to know them as a whole the least. Like no collar, there were like Haley, we barely got to hear from Nina. You know, only the deaf thing. With this tribe, the only one that really talked a lot was Dan. They tried to give Rodney more time. They tried to give Mike more time. Lindsay, Sierra, and Kelly, like they had good moments. I just feel like this was the tribe that they kind of got lost in the premiere a little bit. We didn't get to that. We didn't get as much of them as we did of the other two.
Yeah, I don't understand their dynamics as much as I understand no
Yeah.
collars dynamics or white collars, obviously, because we saw them go to tribal. But pretty much what it is Dan's on the outs, and I don't think there's much more. There's no other layer to it. I think everyone's good. Dan's on the outs. Mike is keeping Dan as like a friend in case something happens. I guess maybe they never go to tribal and there's a tribe swap, and Mike wants to be the one that has Dan, with him. But I think Dan's going pretty soon. Got to say,
Yeah. I don't think he's gonna last very long. All right, let's go on white collar then.
a pre-challenge white collar.
Yeah, pre-challenge white collar. I don't really.
I don't know
I'm
if I'll
trying
be
to
able
think what happened
to.
pre-challenge that wasn't post-challenge, but I guess if we
Yeah, because
kind of make a
post-challenge
mistake.
was so like, uh, you know, eventful that I don't really. I'm trying to think what happened.
Well, pre-challenge, Carolyn found the idol. That was pre-challenge.
That was okay. Yeah,
So that's
that
a
was
big
cool.
moment. That was great.
This is this is another problem that I've had with it. This is on the production side of things. These idols are just so easy to find. I mean, if you're finding idols with no clues just by looking at someone look in a general area, it used to be so hard to find. It was so much fun. I was watching with a friend. This was his like first time watching Survivor since season 1. So I told him, look, this season's gonna be good. This show is awesome. I've watched every episode. Blah blah blah. He's like, you still watch Survivor? I'm like, yes. So he watched it, and he thought idols now were like every episode thing, and you can only play them once, because just of how she found it in the first episode without a clue. I'm like, no, these are rare. These are like gold.
Yeah.
And he came to understand that these aren't things to be found every episode, but it seems like we're heading in that direction. Did you have a problem with how easy she found it?
I don't, and my reasoning for not having a problem with it is
because Carolyn found it. That's what I'm saying. The cast made up for these. Because
it has nothing to do with Carolyn. It doesn't have anything to do with Carolyn, because I liked Carolyn before the game, but I wasn't a huge fan of Carolyn before the game. I don't have a problem with it. She said she's watched before, and she kind of knows where they hide them. She kind of like got the hints from it. So was being so obvious. She's looking up high in a tree. So if you're Carolyn and you see that and you know she had a clue to a hidden immunity idol, all you have to do is look in trees. And yeah, I get that it was maybe too easy because she didn't have any clues, but start looking in unique trees and you're probably going to find an idol. So I don't really have a problem. Her clue was that So was being so blatant about it.
No, I know. And I don't have a problem with the way she found it, like seeing So. I have a problem that's all that you said. Like, all you have to do is look in unique looking trees. Like, it shouldn't be that easy, is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I completely get that. Yeah, that is too easy to find it. I just don't have a problem
with the way she found it. It should be somewhere. They used to be hard to find, and now they're kind of like just handing them out. So, I mean, I'm glad that Carolyn found it, though. That's why she made up for that completely. Carolyn goes way up in my book. She had an awesome premiere. Probably the only other person that could win MVP, though it's hard not to say Joe is the MVP of the episode. I know he didn't travel, but
I guess Carolyn would be the MVP or the MVP nomination for the Phantom Tribe. For my tribe, actually, one of our Twitter followers, Brooke BB said that Tyler was like, she thought the MVP of White Collar because he now has Carolyn's. He knows that Carolyn has the idol, and he was kind of like the swing vote. I don't know if that would put Tyler as the MVP of an episode. I'll nominate Tyler as my MVP, but I don't think I'm going to win. I think it's got to be Joe. Carolyn could be number 2. I don't think I have a shot in hell, but I'm going to nominate Tyler just because. Because I actually like Tyler a lot in this premiere.
Right. Tyler went way up. We didn't see much of him until the post challenge where they had to go to tribal.
So I guess we'll hold off.
Yeah, I was going to hold off. Yeah, Tyler did have a great episode, though. I'm trying to think of more things that happened with White Collar before what happened with their shelter? I think...
Didn't they rebuild one or something the first time it didn't work? We didn't get much of it. It just was kind of random, it seemed like.
Yeah, what was Joaquin doing pre-challenge? Anything?
Lying.
Shireen?
Talking about loose women and fast cars. Like, that was it. I don't feel like we got much of them pre-challenge, except for Carolyn and Max's sarcasm and stuff. Did we get much of Shireen? I don't really feel like we even got much of Shireen.
I don't think we really didn't. I think maybe they knew we were going to see him so much later that they just didn't give us that much.
We got a lot of So. We did get a lot of So, and I was wrong about So. I thought she would be the first one booted because she was like a non-entity. She was like, boring, and she just wasn't good at challenges. She was definitely, if she would have hung around, she would have been a good villain.
Yeah, she was feisty.
Yeah,
and that's what did her in. She was a little too aggressive. But again, Joaquin just threw her under the bus completely, and that really kind of ended her game. That whole lie in the beginning, because she ripped through the knots in the challenge. I mean, let's go to the challenge right now.
Yeah, let's go.
So we have the first part of the challenge, and then you can decide the locks or the knots. What would you do with? I mean, let's say you hadn't seen what happened. Obviously, what would you have chosen to start with?
Locks.
See, I would go knots 100%. And here's why.
Okay,
because it is, when you untie a knot, it is complete progress. Like, you're moving forward. You can see yourself progressing. You're not wasting any time. With a lock, it's like, sure, you could just open it and in 3 keys have it done, but the chances of that happening are just so rare. And there's also that chance that you try and you lose track of which key you've used, and you could just be there for so long. And that risk just seems, why take that risk when you can just have a sure thing with the knots?
That's the whole stress thing, I guess. I mean, initially I would have probably thought knots, but I've been reading so many articles and shit, like from Gordon Holmes and all that. And Gordon Holmes was out there, and he said the dream teamers said you always go locks because all you have to do is get one lock and it's popped. It might seem like you're not making progress.
It was 3 locks in 20.
But it might seem like you're not making progress. But once you find that key, okay, now you're 1/3 of the way done. With the knots, there were so many knots there, and you saw it started to take its toll on Mike. That's a big guy, and he was still like struggling. He was like physically tired from untying those knots, and you could see it on his face.
Yeah, but when there's 3 locks to undone, if it was 1 lock, yeah, but there's 3 and 20 keys, so you have to keep track of which keys you've used. Like, what if you use a key, doesn't work, and then it kind of slips back into the key ring, and you're like, shit, like, which one do I try? You have to try that one again, maybe, or you skip a next one, and the one that's right, you skipped. Like, what if you just lose track of the keys? There's such a high chance of that happening.
I guess it determines how well, I guess really what it comes down to is how well do you think you can handle that pressure? Where do you think you can stay level-headed enough to go through each key and make sure you're doing it right? Or are you going to be too stressed out where it's like, you know what, let me just rip through these knots because there's no way I have the patience or the mind to sit there and work on every key. I think it just comes down to the type of person you are. And it doesn't surprise me that Vince was the one who went out there and tried to do the locks because I feel like even when he was bothered by the whole Gen Joe thing, he was still he was calm about it, like almost scary calm about it. And that's why it didn't really surprise me that he was the one trying the locks because I could see him sitting there and like being real tedious and getting them eventually.
Well, they all started with the locks, which surprised me. It really did, because I think at least one tribe would say, hey, they like the blue collar. I thought that would be very blue collar them. Let's just rip through it, work hard. And then who was the first tribe to switch over to knots? Was it white collar?
I think it was white collar.
I think So was like, yeah,
and
let's do the knots. Yeah, she just ripped through those knots. And then I love Carolyn at Tribal was like, what, you open some knots. Like, anyone can do that.
Yeah, that's not
she
exciting.
Did it pretty quickly. Yeah. But that was impressive nonetheless. I mean, like you said, we saw Mike really struggle, keeping up and opening those knots. And then we get to, okay, they do the ladder thing, move the ladder.
And remember now, when we get to the puzzle, blue collar is still working on knots. This wasn't even close. Blue collar was so far out of this. It was pretty insane how far back they were.
They were far back, and when they had the ladder to reach up to the puzzle pieces, they couldn't even arrange the ladder in the right way to get the pieces, which was so funny. Okay, this puzzle thing. If Shireen said she's good at puzzles, so why don't you choose the 5-piece one? I don't. If you're good at puzzles, it's not like they made some impossible puzzle and there's only 5 pieces. How many ways can they go together?
My whole thing is, if you do the 5-piece puzzle, it's probably going to be like a 3-dimensional puzzle, where like they only fit together. You might have to make like a circle or something. I don't know what they would do. My thinking for them is, the 50-piece puzzle they probably thought was going to be putting numbers in order because it was going to be easy. I seriously think that's what they thought. I don't think they thought that it was going to be much of a puzzle at all. I thought because it was 50 pieces, they just thought it was going to be like, okay, we have to arrange these in the right order, get it done. I would always go 10 because I would always go the middle road. I don't want the really hard one. I don't want the really easy one. Let me do the middle one. That seems to be the neutral one. Let me do that one. And it worked out for the people who did the middle one. We'll get into the blue collar thing, but that's just my opinion. I would always do the 10-piece.
I really wish I could try that 5-piece puzzle. I love puzzles, and I make puzzles. I love doing puzzles. I would have told my tribe, look, I'll do the 5-piece puzzle, and I would love to have tried it. I wish someone would have tried the 5-piece puzzle because it'd be so funny for someone to get a 5-piece puzzle really quickly.
Yeah.
And someone working on 50 pieces. Because the 50-piece one, while it looks, easy because it's just words, all those pieces were the same size. And when they're all the same size, that's what makes puzzle solving really difficult.
They're little squares with colors on it. Like, that's hard.
Right. It's not that easy. I don't think that was easy. I don't think who told Jeff that was easier. I guess John Kirchhofer said that's going to be the easy puzzle just because it's pretty straightforward. But by no means was Shireen like, hey, that's the easiest. I mean, she struggled really, really hard. And then Max started making progress, but it was just too late. The tree puzzle, we've seen that before. It's a pretty unique, cool puzzle.
Joe ripped through that puzzle. Joe flew through that puzzle. That took Joe like no time at all, man. That's another reason why Joe should probably be MVP. He tore through that like it was nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Joe, again, this is Joe's. I'll make my case for Joe right now as the MVP. He started the fire, and then he ripped through the puzzle so his tribe didn't have to go to tribal. And I know Carolyn had a great episode, and she found the idol and then got the target off her back. Good for her. Joe didn't even have to go to tribal because of what he did.
And not only that, he came back. They weren't in first place when they got to the puzzle. He went through that puzzle so fast that even had the white collar tribe done their puzzle relatively quickly, he still would have been the comeback to make sure they got the reward that came along with the immunity.
Yeah, and he ripped through it. It was so quick. So I guess we have our MVP nominees from each fantasy team. So I'm nominating Joe. I think he's a slam dunk. I think Phil even agrees with me. Phil's nominating Tyler. I guess we'll get into him more once we talk about the white collar pre-tribal. And then the Phantom Tribe is nominating Carolyn, who had a great episode too, but not the level. I mean, Joe just stood out as he was the MVP.
Yeah, Carolyn. I mean, if I could see it coming down to Carolyn or Joe. If Tyler wins, I get 3 points. But the only reason Tyler would win is more because before the season, people didn't think highly of Tyler, and then all of a sudden they watched him and like, wait, this guy. My one friend sat there and said, this might be the most level-headed guy to ever play this game. Because as they're all flipping out, he's just standing there so calmly talking with his arms folded, like, why are they doing this? Like, I think that we should do it this way. And he was so calm the entire time. It was like, he was almost too calm, and it was like,
he knew he wasn't going home. He knew he was in absolutely no danger.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire was right on Shireen for a while, and I really thought Shireen was going home after that challenge. I was like, wow, she totally blew the challenge.
Yeah.
She said she was, it's not like someone volunteered her or she's like, fine, I'll do it. She was like, I'll do it. I'm good at puzzles, and then just totally blew it. And on a supposedly easy puzzle, which I don't think it was that easy, but an easy puzzle, I thought it was going to be tough for her to. I guess what did happen pre-challenge for the white collar was Carolyn, Max, and Shireen formed this alliance. So
great alliance too.
Yeah. So Tyler, I guess, was just floating, and he did a great job at floating in the middle. And then some wacky stuff happened.
Well, you want to talk challenge still real quick? Because there's one thing I really do want to say about the challenge.
I thought we were going to move on, but yeah, go for it.
My only problem with the challenge, and this is one thing that is constantly brought up when you read like exit interviews, questions with Jeff Probst, and Jeff Probst is very anti-everything. I was reading, because Gordon Holmes was out there on scene, and I was reading an interview with him, and he said after Blue Collar completed their puzzle, Mike actually turned to the No Collar tribe and said, thanks for helping us out. Because he's in the middle, and all he had to do was look right over and just put the pieces, mirror exactly what the No Collar did. The puzzles were the exact same. And if you're going to do the 10-piece puzzle, maybe mix up where the pieces go or something. But, to have them, I don't like that they could just look right there, man. I hate that.
I totally agree with you in the looking. Just put a banner or a piece of wood, just anything, and just so you can't look. I mean, this has been a problem on Survivor for a while now. And even in Redemption Island, when people would tell other people how to do stuff, you left kind of feeling like someone got ripped off. Again, with this, I didn't notice them looking, but I was saying, why don't they just look? I guess you read something after, but yeah, I'm not surprised at all that they would look. I still don't get this.
I don't think they wanted it to seem like Blue Collar was looking because they wanted to be like, oh, Blue Collar made this great comeback. But Mike might be great at puzzles. He might be one of the best puzzle people of all time. I don't know. But he did that so fast, and the way that he was just putting those pieces in while Max is over there trying to, while Max is making pretty quick progress, Mike did that puzzle so fast that if that puzzle really is as hard as it seemed to be in, previous seasons and stuff, there's no way Mike is going to do that in 5 minutes. He might have done it faster than Joe. And I remember in one of the previews, they showed Mike looking over to his right and stuff. He was copying. That's all he did was copy. And White Collar was all the way on the other side doing a different puzzle. And even if they did the tree puzzle, they sort of looked to the complete opposite side of the thing. They weren't right there. I don't know why the dividers don't go up. Jeff is so anti-dividers. The dividers have to be there because blue collar won, and I don't mind it, but white collar got screwed on that. At least a little bit.
Yeah, I think white collar, you don't feel as bad for them because they totally had the lead and blew it with them, like Shireen just totally messing up the puzzle. So I don't really feel as bad. But wait, you said Jeff is anti-dividers? What's that all about? Has he said that?
Yeah.
I guess he is because we never see him.
Yeah, because Dalton Ross, I'm pretty sure it's Dalton Ross for EW. He'll always ask him because I always read his questions afterwards. And anytime somebody copies, Dalton Ross will always ask him, "Why do you not put up dividers? Why do you not put up dividers?" And Jeff doesn't seem to want to put up dividers. I don't really know why. He's like, "Well, that's just one of the things that's there. You can look over if you want. Anybody can do it." And I'm like, why should they even have that option? Just put the divider up. Don't let anybody see. Make them do their puzzle on their own. They shouldn't know how. You be the announcer and tell everybody how close everyone is. Nobody needs to be able to see the puzzle. Just let it go and just make them do it on their own. It's kind of like it kind of puts a little damper on the fact that blue collar made this great comeback because really all they had to do was look to the right and there's no collar's puzzle completed.
Yeah, piece of wood or a banner in between. I'm trying to find the negative part of doing that where Jeff's like, well then I don't see it. I don't even see there's no counter argument. Unless if you have a counter argument, please in the comments let us know as what's the problem? What's the disadvantage of having a divider? Is it for camera angles? Is it I can't even think of why.
Yeah.
No, I mean nothing we can do about that. The thing still being white collar had all day for that puzzle. Yeah. That puzzle wasn't, like I said, that was 50 identical sized pieces. That's not that easy. It really, they should have made, I know it just spells something out, but if you have an H and a T and letters, parts of letters on a little block, that's not the easiest thing.
By the time that you organize the puzzle, because, they had it organized by color, so now it's organized, but you still have to put it together. By the time you get all those pieces in some sort of organization, that's not that quick or easy of a puzzle. Maybe they wanted it to be like that. Maybe they were just hey, if you want to do the 50-piece puzzle, it might be easier than the other two, and that just might be why they said it. It might just be easier than the other two.
I don't think it was easier. And Shireen said she was good at puzzles. That's why I'm so confused. Why not take the 5-piece puzzle?
Yeah, that's what I don't get either. Why didn't they just do the 5?
If you're good at puzzles, and it seems like she is, if you're a person who plays puzzles regularly, it's not like they're going to put this impossible thing in there for you. It's not this crazy hard thing. It was 5 pieces. So yeah. I totally would have chosen the 5-piece puzzle if I was playing. But anything more on the challenge?
No, now we can move on. I just wanted to say that one thing about the whole copying thing. That's bothered me for years, and that's one of the things that I thought that was going to be one of your production points, where it's that bothered me from a production standpoint. I don't like that. I don't like that they could just do
that. Yeah, no, that does bother me too. I didn't, because it wasn't shown. They got me, honestly. I feel they got a lot of people. They edited out him kind of looking completely over. It did enter my mind it's right there. He can probably see it. But they did a good job of covering that up. Again, I don't know why they don't have dividers. Okay, so for the white collar tribe, post-challenge, Shireen's taking heat, and then all of a sudden, So is just full on, we need to get Carolyn out of here. She didn't even offer herself up, which I kind of was hey, give Shireen a break. She stepped up, she took a shot. Carolyn didn't offer to do anything.
You know what? This white collar tribe is a very unique tribe because they clearly had found out that So and Joaquin had lied earlier in the episode, and they didn't seem that mad about it. Nobody was really ranting. Nobody was talking to the camera oh, I'm so mad that they lied to us. They knew it was a lie, and I think they were just kind of they were trying to play the game. And I feel that's kind of a unique mentality for Survivor where these people kind of realize, you know what, you're going to do what you have to do to get ahead. I would probably do the same thing. I think even Max said I would do the exact same thing. I don't know. I just feel they're not as bitter as you would have expected them to be. And I feel they were going to kind of give Shireen a little bit of a break on this because, she stepped up. She tried to do it. She failed this time. Maybe next time she does better. If she fails next time, then we get rid of her. And I kind of think they have a unique perspective on this.
They totally do. And, you would think the person who screws up the challenge, all right, go after them. She wasn't even on the block, really, for that long. And then the lie, someone lies on Survivor first day, usually tons of heat on them. And yeah, they didn't really seem that pissed about it, like you said. And then Max, this is what Max said at Tribal. He said, "I'm not disappointed that they chose the clue. I'm just disappointed, or I would have lied a lot better." And
Yeah.
Max, why did you say that? I just don't know why he said that. Why put any extra? People already look at you like this smart bearded dude, I think, already. Like, you're clearly well spoken and smart. I don't know why he's saying I would have lied better. I'm this great liar. A little weird to me, Max saying that. I think he wants the attention, to be honest. But somebody just commented actually and said, could the No Collar tribe knock over their completed puzzle after they had won to prevent other tribes from copying? I I think they're allowed to, but I, I don't. I feel like if it's no collar, blue collar, white collar, I feel like no collar is rooting for blue collar in that situation.
I completely agree with you on that. I think that because why would you? I don't understand why you would want give the white collar every disadvantage you can because they're obviously. That's another thing I didn't mention yet, or I didn't mention at the beginning, but it almost seemed like Shireen wasn't happy with the label of white collar at the beginning. She was kind of giving negative looks about it. I don't think that they might have been okay with it, but I don't feel like they were as happy with it as blue collar. It's like we work hard. Dan was like we built America. The white collars, they already have this negative connotation. So I'm assuming no collar would kind of want white collar to lose because they're looking at them as more threatening and more smart.
Yeah, totally.
That's just how I would look at it.
Yeah, no, we talked about this pre-season. We were saying if you're on no collar, they're going to be so happy. They're all together. We are these, good spirited, loose. We do what we want. Like, they're going to love each other. Blue collar, they're going to totally just have this pride of working hard and being in the workforce. And then white collar is going to be like, oh shit, like we're the targets, we're the threats. And yeah, clearly Sherman was bummed about that. So I think no color, even if let's say it was white collar in the middle, do you think they knock over their puzzle? I don't think they do, just because it's kind of, I don't think we've seen that before, but I think it's allowed. I do think it's allowed, because Jeff says, okay, you won. Like, he puts his hands up, no collar, wins immunity and the fire-making kit. I think you can knock it down, because by then you've won.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to think. I don't even know if no collar was maybe even thinking like that. Maybe no collar was just like, what does it matter? Because they already won,
exactly.
They don't have to worry about it.
And they're these no-collar people, so.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. That's a good question. I wonder if that even crossed any of their minds. I wonder if that could be something think about for later seasons if they still don't put up the dividers. Because if white collar was done first, would they have knocked it over? So that blue collar because supposedly white collar was very mad that blue collar was cheating. So, which I guess it's not cheating, it's just looking. But would white collar have knocked theirs over to prevent people from looking? I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, maybe that's why Jeff doesn't want the dividers, because it leaves someone with the decision to not help someone or help someone. Anyway, either way it shakes out, there should be dividers. That shouldn't be just some loophole that you can someone can just hand you not going to tribal council. I mean, they got handed immunity.
That's one other thing too, though. If you're the no collar tribe and you won, and blue collar's next to you, and blue collar's clearly looking, and it's the first immunity challenge, why knock yours over and already create tension with the blue collar tribe, who you're gonna merge up with later? Why create enemies that you don't need to create yet? So I don't think that I would knock it over.
Exactly.
Either. I think I would just leave.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to go out of your way to harm someone that you really have no business.
Because white collar can't be that mad at no collar because all they did was finish the puzzle and walk away.
Exactly. They're not mad. They're kind of, I guess they're just mad that there are no dividers. That's the mad thing. They can't even no collar for looking, because that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, it is.
But yes, that was a good question. Thank you, Corey Bananas, for that question. So we can go back to the pre-tribal white collar tribe. So just goes after Carolyn. I think Joaquin's on board immediately because they have that alliance. And then Tyler is kind of in the middle. And same with Max. Max was kind of unsure whether they should go with Carolyn or So, because So did such a good job with the knots.
Yeah.
But they made the right call.
I think they made the right call. Because I feel like...
I mean, So was there to play.
Yeah.
She was there to lie. Not this. She wasn't super aggressive, but if you're looking at people you can trust, Carolyn or So, it's not even a question.
You want the person who's going to be loyal to you the entire time. And when it came to So, she was already more loyal to Joaquin than she was to Max and Shireen and Carolyn. So why would you want to do that? Clearly, they didn't really want to. I don't feel like they wanted to align with Joaquin. At least that's just what I got from it. I feel like they might have kept him around more so than so because, like you said, Joaquin threw So under the bus, but also because Joaquin's a huge force. There's no way you can't get rid of a guy like that first. I don't feel like.
Right? No, you can't. You can't. I mean,
But
if they lose again, he might be next to go.
yeah.
But because I think Tyler is now sitting. He's doing okay, and he's the only one who knows about Carolyn's idol besides Carolyn. So,
I think Tyler. This is where the whole MVP for Tyler thing would come in. Is I feel like Tyler, because he was able to get Carolyn to tell him who that she had the idol. I feel like he was the deciding factor in the vote off, and he's also very level-headed. And they were all kind of coming to him like, "Oh, we got to do what the big man wants." Tyler was kind of like the center of that whole thing where it was like, I'm going to be the one who decides this, but he didn't do it in a way where it made people mad, and he didn't make the target he didn't put the target on himself because they were so like he wasn't rude about it and he wasn't annoying about it. He was just like, "Oh, this is what I think we should do." And I think he played really well this episode, and I hope we get to keep seeing that from Tyler.
For sure. So we had to tribal, and what didn't come up, which was interesting, was Shireen. Jeff didn't even say Shireen. You've got to be worried. You really blew the puzzle. I'm sure he said it at some point. The editing didn't really show that because it was between So and Carolyn the whole time. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's why they didn't show up. But Shireen really kind of snuck away from the heat. So good job by her. Joaquin snuck away from the heat. He kind of blamed he got no blame for that lie. No one in their confession was like, we got to watch out for Joaquin, even though he was the one that was totally pushing for the lie the whole time.
I'm going to be honest, I don't think they're worried about Joaquin. I don't think they're worried that he's going to outsmart them or anything. I feel like they're just kind of like, oh, he lied. We'll get him eventually. Like, I don't think they're that worried about Joaquin.
Yeah, they're not, which I think you should be. He seems, I like Joaquin. He went up he goes up, Carolyn goes up. Obviously, So is gone, so. It wasn't the craziest of tribals, but for the first episode, I did not know who was going. And then Carolyn has this idol, so you're like, it could go a lot of ways.
Is she gonna play it? I honestly thought that Tyler was gonna go against Carolyn because he knew she had the idol, and get rid of Carolyn, and Carolyn was gonna go home with an idol in her pocket, or I thought Carolyn was gonna play it and actually save herself. I didn't think So was going, only because I felt like the idol kind of scared Tyler. But maybe what the editing didn't show is that Tyler and Carolyn might actually work together a lot better than anybody really thought. And Tyler might think, hey, she might help me out with that idol later down the road.
Right, and that's why the editing was so good.
Yeah.
To go against Carolyn. And we don't know, Tyler could have told me about this idol. I'll be your number 3 with, you and Shireen, or, not the number 3, but a part of your 3 instead of Carolyn. We'll flush the idol, we'll have a strong 3 versus 2. Like, that was totally plausible. That could have happened. And then on the other side, they could have said, look, So is just too dangerous, and she goes. So I did not know what was going to happen. That's what you want heading into tribal. You don't want these slam dunks. Probably when we go to the blue colors first tribal, we'll have a slam dunk with Dan, unless he finds an idol or unless something shakes up over there. But yeah, So goes home. I was rooting for So to go home. I didn't want Carolyn to go. She's awesome. I love Carolyn. I wish I would have taken her in the fantasy draft over So.
Because when we did the fantasy draft, you were between So and Carolyn, and I thought it was an easy pick. I would have taken Carolyn easily, and you're like, no, well, I'm going to go with So, and I was kind of surprised. And it was funny that the first episode revolved around them. That's what's kind of funny about it.
Yeah, I know it is. I totally blew it. A lot of fantasy leagues, you get points for having the first boot. Ours, we didn't do that. So, whatever. I'm totally okay with that. I'm definitely losing now. I think I got -5 points for that.
Yep.
It's okay, though. I'm pretty sure I'm getting the MVP. You guys, let's settle the MVP thing right now. So, each one of our tribes, I'm nominating Joe, who he is the MVP. Even Phil agrees. So you kind of have to give it to Joe. Then there's you can speak for Tyler if you want. I don't think you're going to make much of a case, but
yeah. And then there's Carol. I don't need to speak for Tyler anymore. Like, I just think Tyler surprised me. I like the way Tyler's playing. I think he's going to be a way better pick than I originally thought he was going to be for myself.
And then there's Carolyn on the Phantom Tribe, who, yes, did have a great episode. Yes, she found an idol. Yes, she didn't get voted off. But Joe dominated that challenge so thoroughly that he didn't even let his tribe go to challenge.
Joe's the reason that his tribe didn't go to tribe. Joe's the reason his tribe didn't lose, whereas the white collar lost, and that's why we got to see more of Carolyn. Whereas if Carolyn doesn't go to tribal council, she's probably not in the running as much because, okay, yeah, we saw her find the idol, but that's all she did the whole episode. She didn't win the challenge for anybody. She was more of a hindrance in the challenge.
Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. If white collar doesn't go to tribal, Carolyn has no chance of winning. Like, let's say blue collar goes, Joe is still there. Joe still had that, just made the fire, made friends, except for Vince. We'll see how that plays out.
I can't wait to see that. But that's going to be awesome as this season goes on. I hope that they don't feud so hard that one of them is the first boot. I want to see that keep going and going and going. Because as weird as some of these people are, they were all great TV. This whole cast was great TV this first episode.
Definitely. I loved it. So do you want to move on to the Bootlist update or anything else on the episode?
No, let's go to the Bootlist update. What are we going to do? We're just going to go over who is in first place right now and who's in last place, kind of, and then...
Yeah, sure.
We'll start getting more in-depth as the weeks go on and there's more to it, but you know where you had so. You're somewhere between first place and last place. It just depends on what you had. Just remember, it's 18 minus whatever place you had her in.
Yeah. So there were 9 people that had so going out first. And it's interesting, 3 of them came within like the last 10 entries. So it's a little skeptical. We'll let that fly for now, see how those go. I'll read them off. So we have Phil, you had so first. Harkins, Doral, apologize if I, don't say these names correctly.
Oh, you
Rob
cut out
Kellogg,
there when you said Phil. You got to say
West.
Phil again. You have to say Phil again because you cut out, and
Okay.
I want everybody to know that Phil was there.
Okay, so we have Phil, Sarah Harkins, Doral Madrica, Rob Kellogg, Lauren West, Jack Butler, Adam Klein, Makalaka, and Jokesters. So Adam Klein, Makalaka, and Jokesters, those were 3 really late submissions, and they had so going first. And there were only 8. Is that 8? No, 9 people total. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to accuse them yet, but we're looking out at those. I
don't think you accuse anyone. Maybe they just listen to my podcast. Maybe they just listen to me better. Maybe they were like, you know what, Phil is on to something here. So he's definitely going first. But it was kind of interesting.
Thing is, we have 90 entries, and there's only 9 out of. We have 98 actually. So there's almost 100, and there's 9. So it's like 1 in 10, even more than that. Like 1 in 10 have so. And then they're in like the last row. Like these are the last 10 people to submit. So
and the thing is, the first 64 people to submit, the first 64 people did not have so in last place. The first 64. Except for me. So the other 8 all came later on, later entries. I mean, it could be CBS's fault because they give out crappy previews and they show too much. But I mean, they didn't start doing that till, 2 weeks ago? So when we did it, we were so ahead. Well, this is our first podcast after the cast assessment. So, right? Wasn't this our first one?
Yeah, we'd only done the fantasy draft before it. So we did the fantasy draft before it. But still, we did it a while ago.
Okay. I was always down on so.
There are still... Right, you were. So good job for you. Okay, and then we have 5 people who have submitted Bootlist and haven't subscribed yet, or they have their subscriptions hidden, have them on private. And I'm going to read those names now just so we'll give you another week to subscribe and have your entry count. So we have Morgan Staub, I think it's Staub, it's S-T-A-U-B, and then Yoshiro S., Jack Butler, Laurel Reynolds, and Steve Smitto. And Laurel Reynolds and Steve Smitto, those were pretty late entries, so maybe it's just delayed.
Steve Smitto didn't do it.
What? Subscribe?
Yeah, I know Steve Smitto. He's an idiot. All right, anyway.
Oh.
I know Steve
Okay.
Smitto. That's why I'm sitting here and I'm like, of course he messed it up. That's freaking Steve. Yeah, of course he messed that up. Who was the
Okay.
other one? Jack Butler, Morgan Staub, Yoshira as Steve Smitto, and then who was the other one? Because you kind of, for a second.
Laurel Reynolds.
Okay, yeah, and he's the one he also had Vince twice, so he didn't have Jen
Yeah.
in there, Laurel Reynolds.
Yeah. I think he's gonna fix it. We'll give you a week to fix it and subscribe.
Then just one last thing about this. People who had So in first place, there were 5 of you. And I think it's kind of funny, or I think it's kind of necessary to say, you guys have 17 points now. It's not over, but you have 17 points after 1 week. Those 5 are Julio Lowe, Kyrie O, Bretton Johnson, Robert Alden, and pegboards. So all of you got your work cut out for you, those 5. So there's 5 people in last, there's 9 people in first. Everyone else, you're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I think I had, let's see. I think I had her at 15th. Maybe
You had her
14th?
at 14th. Yeah, so you got 4
Okay.
points.
So I got 4 points. I'm not upset with that. It's fine. I'm not expecting to predict a perfect boot list. I don't think anybody is.
No.
So yeah. Do we have anything else? I mean, this was a great premiere. I think we've been talking for a good amount.
Yeah, I mean, just check back in with us. Vote for the MVP. Follow us on Twitter, Phil_and_Will. And check in with us, Monday, right? Monday we're going to do our power rankings?
Yes. Monday we will be doing the power rankings.
Yeah, so check in with us Monday, and you'll get to see like what we think, and maybe we'll have another preview. I know that for the next time on, it looked like Nina was in trouble early, but I know they always try to, throw you off, and then we get to see some naked Sharin and Max. So who doesn't want that, right? Naked Sharin and naked Max. That's the dream.
I don't get this naked thing. It's who knows? We'll see how it goes. I'm kind of worried about Max. I don't think he's gonna last as long as I originally thought. He's too into being this character, I think. But we'll have to find out. So
yeah.
Alrighty.
All right, we'll see you
Great
Monday.
premiere. Thanks
Yep.
for watching.